Right, review it. The stage is yours, Mr. Edwards. Flowers of the Killer Moon.
Okay, so first of all, it is about it's after the First World War. Leonardo DiCaprio turns up fresh from the trenches. He was a chef in the First World War, and one very good thing about the film is DiCaprio plays a very different type of character than he's played before. He's slightly dim-witted. He's not Forrest Gump, but he's not the sharpest tool in the box, and he's easily manipulated by the people around him. You know, you can tell he was a grunt in the army, and he's easily kind of molded and directed by the people around him, primarily his uncle, who he goes to live with after the war, who's Robert De Niro, who's a big landowner in this part of America. And within this American community, the Native Americans have hit upon oil on their land and have now become millionaires. And suddenly the whole class system's turned upside down, whereby you've got white men pleading indigenous American, American Indians as they wander into the town, asking them for like money, donations, things in that vein. And Robert De Niro's character, who likes to be called the King, which gives you an insight into his kind of psyche, is wanting to marry off people from his white community with the indigenous tribes to try and slowly get some of that money back into their families and communities. You know, basically mixed blood races in a way. But at the same time, there's continual murders taking place in the community of Native Americans. So there seems to be some kind of conspiracy. Is the white man trying to get its money back?
Mm. Well, that's hooked me in just that,
And DiCaprio,
and beautifully explained, may I say,
which
David?
is not like me. It's got to be said.
No,
So
beautiful.
obviously, good
Were you pleased with
storytelling.
that? It felt,
I think so. Yeah, maybe I didn't
yeah.
overthink it. I
No,
was
I
just
think you
in the
absolutely nailed
flow.
it.
It was a
Yeah,
Michael Jordan moment.
yeah,
Basketball in hand,
yeah.
1 minute on the clock. The positives are it has the energy, the cinematography and the editing of, like, I would say a 30-year-old film director, someone who because you got to remember Scorsese's now 81. It's quite incredible. A lot of these directors, it's like Ridley Scott, who's got the Napoleon epic coming out in November, also financed by Apple. It's interesting that all these big director films are financed by these big Silicon Valley computer companies now. Um, he's also 80. He's in his early 80s. It's just like these are sprawling epics. I don't know how they manage. I mean, I have mornings where I literally can't start my car, and I'm not using that in a sarcastic manner. Do you know what I mean? It's like sometimes it takes me 4 times to park my car,
What do you
and like
mean?
just to get it lined up, make sure it's properly. It's not OCD. It's just like well, you can't leave it like that, Dave. Someone's going to scratch into it.
What, and you're
And
comparing that to making a?
well, definitely, because making a film is right brain,
I
left
was just
brain, isn't
thinking
it?
that. I was thinking about being in the edit and creating a 3.5 hour story. How the hell do you get that right?
Thing is, more and more, I know a lot of people who've worked in special effects companies, and they do say that directors like Tim Burton, they say the reason why they've kind of become more and more commercial and they've dropped the ball more and more is they have less and less really to do with many of the elements of the film.
God,
They
I thought you
more like,
said Nelly the elephant.
well, Dumbo, there you go. I mean, that
What
is a
did you
Nelly the
say?
elephant.
Many the elephant,
What did I say then?
many of the
Less,
elements. I think you said
many of the
Nelly
elements.
the elephant.
Nelly the elephant gets involved, which is like his
Many of the
sidekick.
elephants, Nelly the elephant. Many of the
Yeah,
elephants, many of the elements, Nelly the elephant. Many of the elements, Nelly the elephant.
absolutely. They do work hand in hand. If you say it quick enough, Nelly the elephant comes up.
How
Many of
does
the
Nelly the
elements.
elephant go?
How
Nelly
do you
the
mean?
elephant packed a trunk and said goodbye to the circus.
Circus,
Off she went with the
went
trumpety trump,
and jump.
trump, trump. Can I just ask you a couple of questions regarding the film? Are there any set pieces or scenes that are sort of what's the word? Thrilling or just I can't think of the word. Ah!
Well, I mean, the opening image is, I thought to myself, God, this feels like a really young filmmaker. And this won't ruin it, describing this image. But there's this amazing slow mo shot with like kind of rock music, but it's not a specific band. Because I mean, Scorsese is well known for his needle drops, isn't he? Using like classic rock music, like Eric Clapton, things like that. So you've got like a style because it's a period piece, but it's sort of rock music esque, and you've got silhouetted Indians in slow mo dancing and in all this oil that's going to enter them into capitalism.
Ooh, like Roald Dahl's.
It feels like Woodstock, which obviously he helped edit. He did the Woodstock movie,
Okay.
which is interesting. But I
Are
mean,
there any moments in the film where you go, I tell you what, 1.5 hours in, there's this section 10 minutes long that'll blow your knickers off?
the thing is, I don't want to spoil it for people,
No.
but there's great moments between DiCaprio and De Niro where their just performances are incredibly engaging. They're just very, very watchable. And DiCaprio is very much playing a different type of character that we haven't seen before. Because like Wolf of Wall Street, there are times where he's just playing DiCaprio, the movie star. Do you know what I mean? Films like that.
Yeah.
And definitely he's playing a different, he's inhabiting a character. The way he pulls his face, his mouth, it's very, very impressive. It's very, very engaging. And the female actresses in this are also incredibly good. Which is very annoying, and I do apologise. I've forgotten the name of the actress who plays the native Indian who he has a relationship with. She's incredibly good, very silent, quiet and still, but gives over a real clear sense of personality and self. The acting is definitely Oscar level.
David,
Something Grave, her name. Sorry.
from what I know of you, I feel like you're trying to find parts of the film that are positive, and deep down, you're slightly disappointed.
You work me out. You have worked me out there, Captain. Full stop. The problem I have with the film, no one has had a problem with.
What is it?
Every review, if you go on YouTube, every review says the same thing. It's 3 hours and a half. I didn't notice it. I didn't feel the 3 hours and a half, and it needed those 3 hours and a half. But unfortunately, I found it just too laboured and too stretched out, and I really felt those 3 hours and a half. It felt to me like a Netflix miniseries, but unlike a Netflix miniseries that would have subplots and you go off with the FBI characters, you would spend perhaps more time with De Niro in his home. This is one single linear narrative, very much from DiCaprio's journey, and it's just like, and it's a very good writer. It's Eric Roth who wrote it. Who wrote things like Forrest Gump and Dune. So this is an A-class group of people. But that 3 hours and a half, for instance, when the Indians start coming together and realize there's a potential conspiracy that white men are killing them off one by one, that's like an hour into the film. And I sat there thinking, this should have been introduced as the next significant narrative beat 20 minutes in. But at the same time, you really do feel immersed within the historical setting. This is how people lived during the era, which is fascinating. You really do feel one with the era and the mise en scène, the setting, all those different aspects. But those crucial landmark narrative beats, like a rat being given a new bit of cheese every time it turns a corner in a maze, they're very seldom. But if the performances weren't so good, if it wasn't so
You were
interestingly
missing your
edited and
lump.
shot,
You were missing your lumps of Stilton, weren't you?
I was literally missing my lumps of Stilton. But I'm the only one who's had that problem. The music's also very good. It's got a real foreboding boom, boom, boom. It reminds me of
Bottom, bottom, bottom,
boom,
bottom.
boom.
What did Ryan think?
He found it too long as well. Definitely found it too
Listen,
long.
find me a 3.5 hour movie that isn't too long. Sitting down on your Todd trying to concentrate for 3.5 hours is just impossible.
Well, the thing is, I found this more so. This should be, in my eyes, which aren't other people's, it should have been a 4-part Netflix miniseries. And it should have had subplots where you go off and join the other characters. That linear narrative that they've given you is more in keeping with a 2-hour movie, I'd say. But I don't think anyone has had that criticism. People have only just said this is an amazing film. He's 81, he still hasn't lost his touch.
David, respect to you for sticking your head above everyone and going, hey, no, too long.
That's what I would say, that The Irishman didn't feel as long as this. It kept me engaged more. I mean, there's
Okay.
great moments.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
are
yeah. We
sucked
get that.
in.
Yeah, 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 yeah. This is now your time to tell us how many choc ices out of 5 you're going to give Flowers of the Killer Moon. I'm going to have a little guess,
The other
along
thing
with everyone else
I'll have to
watching.
say, which is very positive, is that he's been with the same editor since Mean Streets, Thelma Schoolmaker. So she must be in her like mid late 70s. He's 81, and it's edited together like I don't know, like they're probably established directors, but at the beginning of their careers, like Damien Chazelle, who's done Whiplash and Babylon. You know, a
Yeah.
real that new energy. So to think that she's like in her 70s and she's still able to edit in such a
Well,
fresh,
maybe she should
contemporary
have cut
way.
more out.
This is true. I mean, don't get me wrong; it goes
Uh,
on way too long, but what is
Okay,
there
so everyone, if you had
is
your
skillful.
guess, how many choc ices out of 5 David's going to give Flowers of the Killer Moon? Over to you, David.
3. Wow.
Oh,
That's a very controversial number to give it, though. I mean, most people are giving it 5, so do not be deterred from going to your cinema and watching it, because I would say everyone has given this film 5, and it probably will be the Oscar movie.